gone through each of these 5 essentials, the 5 E's for difficult decisions, and the answer is yes to each of the 5, then make that decision.
Question. Hey bro, I noticed that you mentioned you don't work on the floor anymore as a nurse. If you don't mind, why did you end up leaving the floor? I've been in LVN for a little over 6 years, and I'm on the fence about going back to school. Is it still worth it to get a degree or the RN license? First of all, thank you for the question. I am off the floor. I currently teach in nursing education. It was a very difficult decision to pull myself off the floor, and I don't want to just say like, yeah, it's good, like you should go for it or not. I miss the floor sometimes, and then I think of the hard days, I think of the bad days, but I love what I do now. Now, like I said, a lot of things played into that decision, not just those negative things, but I started asking myself, am I happy where I'm at? And it's not all about happiness, right? I fully believe, you've been in LVN for 6 years. I fully believe that consistent work, no matter what job it is, if you work at it and you give it your all, and it provides enough for you, that's as fulfilling as accomplishing anything else further than that. So I would say if you love your job right now, and if you find a passion, you find something that lights you up with it every day, I don't see the point. Now, do you think it's worth it to get a degree in RN license? I mean, a lot of things play into that, like financial stuff. Of course. I mean, if it would increase your salary, things like that, yeah, I would probably assume that getting a degree or an RN license is a little bit more than your current job as an LVN. So no decision is easy, especially if it's with work, especially if it's with family. Any big decision financially, you really have to get into this place of comfort when you make the decision. So I call it the 5 essentials for difficult decisions. These 5 things I felt like helped me decide. Now, it wasn't defined obviously before, but I finally was able to write it down and construct some sort of questionnaire for myself that I feel like it's finally packaged enough to share with people. But it's the 5 essentials for difficult decisions. And the first thing starts with energy. The question is it worth my energy to think about this, to explore a new avenue? Is it worth my energy to add on top of everything that I have to do now to consider leaving all this for another thing? And this pertains to a hard decision about school, work, financial decisions, family. The question is it worth your energy to even consider making that change? And the second one is ego. And I would say the first 2 here, ego and energy, they're almost like the gatekeepers when it comes to anything I decide. Is it worth my energy? And is this to serve my ego? Am I doing this? Am I considering this out of ego? So when I'm thinking about making a change or making a decision or changing my avenue, my path, the question is why? What's the purpose of changing this path? What's the purpose of making the change? A lot of times we operate out of ego, where, you said you've been working as an LVN, and, your ego is partly challenged when people tell you, oh, you don't want to get your RN? Or, why haven't you considered getting, furthering yourself in your career? So your ego plays a big role in that. And especially nowadays, people are talking about, getting degrees, high degrees, advanced learning, graduate school, and I've said it in previous podcasts in the past where I've accomplished everything that I believed I wanted to at that time. And not to say that it didn't matter, but I realized that partly for that, it was out of ego. Yes, it provided me more finances. Yes, it helped me save up for whatever we had to do as a family. But yeah, I'll admit part of it was ego, because you feel like you want to get the credentials. You want to have those alphabet letters after your name. Now, strip away all the ego. is it still worth it? Right? Is it worth your energy still? So those are the first two things. You really have to ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Number two is this serving my ego? Once you check your ego and the answer is it's not solely for ego, then we move on to the next one. The third one is empathy. Who will directly be affected by this decision? How will this affect those that depend on me? When we talk about empathy, and empathy is being thrown around all the time now, it's not just feeling bad for someone, right? That's sympathy. Empathy is understanding where someone is, understanding and doing your best to understand their perspective, their thoughts, and their feelings. And it's not fully like, hey, I'm trying to feel it with you. Working on the floor, especially in mental health, we take empathy as one of our greatest skills as a nurse, because we don't have to directly go through what the patient's going through to say that we understand. There's times when I don't understand what people are dealing with. But if you tell them, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, I can't imagine what it's like to go through that, that is expressing your empathy for them. Like, you don't have to be in someone else's shoes to try and understand how it would feel. The greatest way I can explain empathy versus sympathy is if you saw someone walking on sharp rocks and they were barefooted. Sympathy would be, oh man, I feel bad for you, dude. I feel bad for this person. Let me buy them shoes. Here's some shoes. It's a beautiful, nice gesture. But that's sympathy. Empathy is a lot simpler, and I think it's more human. It's more innate. It's more intuitive. When I see that person walking barefooted on sharp rocks, empathy would be, that has to hurt. If I were in that position, that has to hurt. That must be painful to do, right? Empathy, it almost feels like you don't have to do anything. Now, it can launch you to do something. It can inspire you to do something for someone else. But empathy is trying to understand where people are and how others are affected by life. So with empathy, you want to ask yourself, who will be affected directly by the decision I make? It could be family. It could be the place of work. It could be your friend. It could be your coworker. You factor that in now. You factor that in. You factor how, if it would affect them negatively. Considering all that, is the answer still yes, go for it? Or is the answer, it would affect them too much, it would affect my kids too much, it would affect my wife or my spouse too much? Then the answer is no. Because I don't want them to be affected to that extent, right? Number 4, I call it end of the world. And that's basically considering the worst case scenario. Let's say you quit your job. You jump into RN school. You're going for the degree, and RN school is not easy. Worst case scenario, you fail. So now you're jobless. You don't have your finances in order anymore, and you're no longer in school. Now, is it worth it? So end of the world would be, are you willing to risk it, considering the worst case scenario? And that leads me to the 5th one, the final one. The final one is embrace. Am I willing to embrace the results, good or bad, positive or negative? Am I willing to own it? Right? So basically, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what the end result is it something you're willing to live with? And the answer could still be yes at this point, where yes, it was worth trying. It was worth doing my best for. It was worth fighting for. And no matter what, if you've gone through each of these 5 essentials for difficult decisions, and the answer is yes to each of the 5, then make that decision, right? Because at that point, You know it's worth your energy. You know it's not out of your ego. It's given you the ability to empathize and to express empathy to those that depend on you, that you love. You've considered the worst case scenario, and at the end, you're willing to embrace it. Now, whatever you decide from here on out, obviously, people ask my opinion all the time, especially at work. At the end of the day, you're the one that's making the decision. You're the one that's going to have to live with whatever result happens. Now, it could be completely amazing for you, but only you know what's best for you. Only you know what's best for your family. Only you know the answer. I can give you my perspective. I can give you my opinion on it, help you with strategies how to come up with that answer. But these 5 essentials have not steered me wrong, even to this day.